Hey y'all, I'm Dr. Reagan, and welcome back to CRxOWN Talks, your dose of health and healing in Black communities. And in about 15 minutes or so, we clear up myths about Black health and break down the healthcare questions you wish you'd asked and the ish they should have told you. Because we're about to be Black, healthy, and crowned. And as we round out the start of this new year, I want to talk about the village behind our kids. And today we're sitting down with someone who knows what students are carrying emotionally, socially, and sometimes spiritually, the school counselor. Welcome, Miss Boyd.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to have this conversation. So, can you just kind of briefly introduce yourself and tell us your role?
Okay. Well, again, my name is Keia Boyd. I am the SEL counselor, social and emotional learning counselor specialist at the school that I work with. We are a school from K to 12. And I have the privilege with working mostly with our K to 8 scholars. And my role goes from teaching in a classroom to providing counseling and support to individuals to doing group sessions, just wherever the student is needed as far as their social, emotional, and academic learning. That's where I step in and what I'm called to do.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And I know a lot of people tend to think that the counselor is just there for academic purposes and learning purposes. So I'm really, really, really excited to talk to you more about this social and emotional aspect of it. So we'll jump straight into the rundown. What are some of the emotional or mental health challenges students walk into the school year with, especially like at this time of year, like the halfway mark?
Okay. Well, one thing I want to say is that I'm excited because my role is primarily for social and emotional learning. And so while I do help a little bit with academics, my role is to help provide and build self-esteem, self-worth, and all those things. So one of the things that we see is just really low self-esteem, right? Not feeling worthy, not feeling capable, not feeling wanted, depending on whether it's middle school, elementary school, even our babies. I'm finding that across the board everybody is going through the same thing, just at different volumes. So you have the acceptance of friendship, you have the getting back into the routine of school. I'm seeing a lot of things that are going on at home. It comes with them to school. And so one of the things that I tell our teachers and the staff is that when the students come through the building, you have to give them a clean slate every day, because you don't know what happened the night before. You don't know what happened on the drive-in. You don't know what happened right before they got out of the car or walked up to the school, right? And so we have to be able to give them some grace, to have good conversation and communication with our students. Dig a little deep to find out what the issue is so that then we can address whatever behavior or whatever isolation or quietness or even loudness, that students are portraying. So we have to be a little bit more intentional about how we connect with our students and what we are saying to them.
I love that because we talk about that recently more so in physical health too, right? Like getting to the root of what is going on and not just taking the surface complaint as at face value because there's often something hiding behind it. So, what do you see are some signs that parents or caregivers should watch for, or clues that a student might be struggling?
Okay. Let me just pause just for a moment. That comment that you made is absolutely true. We had a student who had some medical things going on that we didn't know about, but because of our persistence, we were able to find out that what she was complaining about wasn't just something normal. It wasn't, her trying to get out of class, that there was really something serious going on. And because we united as the counselor, as the teacher, with the parent and administration, we were able to get that student the help that they needed. So it's very important, like I said again, to kind of go deep within to find out what is going on with the students. So I just think that that's so important, not to, make assumptions on what we think it is, but to really ask the question. I think a lot of us take for granted that they're just children and that they don't know. But I promise you, if you ask them the question in a sincere way, they will give you the answer. And then you'll know how to navigate from there.
Especially if they trust you, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is one thing that I am extremely big on when it comes to my office, whether it is student or staff. When you come to my office, you are in a safe, confidential space. As long I tell them, as long as you're not coming to tell me that you want to chop somebody up and hide them in the backyard, what we talk about is confidential. And I'm thankful to say that I have a good rapport with our students and staff, where they know that when they come in this door and we close the door, that it's just a conversation, and giving them a freedom to be able to speak and express themselves the way they need to at that time,
Yeah.
and not give barriers of what we think, but just allow them to be themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, what are some signs parents or caregivers should watch for, clues that a student might be struggling?
Isolation, short answers, academic dropping in grades, change in friends. Those for me are red flags. I always ask or tell parents that when you're asking your child about their day and they say it was okay, I always tell them to poke a little bit, because your okay and my okay is completely different. And what does that mean? So I always tell parents, you can poke a little bit. Well, what does okay mean? And ask about each subject of the day. They're here for 7 hours, sometimes even longer than that. It's a long day and a lot has happened. So find those probing questions that they can ask to get a real answer, and not just a flyby answer. Even with homework, do you have homework? Yes. Okay, well, what was it? What's the subject? What's the expectation? Or, some students that say, I did it. And some parents will say, okay, but we want to go the extra mile and say, okay, show me, tell me about, the homework assignment. What did you get from it? What was the purpose of it? And I find that when you do that, you create an atmosphere where your child will even be okay with coming to you on those difficult topics, because they know that you're invested, and it's not just a let me hurry up and get an answer, but you really want to know how their day is going. We don't just want to show up when there's a problem, when there's an issue, when our students are failing or not doing well. We want to show up in the good days, in the wins. And we want to celebrate the small wins. If you have a child that's normally late in getting up, but they started a little bit early, that's a win. If
Yeah.
you got a child that went from a D to a C, that's a win. And so I encourage our parents and our teachers to celebrate the small wins. Everything is not going to be a home run out of the park, but if you make it to first base, then that's a win.
Yeah. I love that because I feel like I was such an open kid because I talked a lot. My report card always said talks too much. And my son was different, right? So it was asking strategic questions versus
Mhm.
asking, like my mama asked me how was school. I was about to run down the whole day. But my son didn't do that. So you have
Right,
to figure, you have to parent the child you have, not the child you were.
right, absolutely. I love that. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, how do you advocate for students when teachers or administrators label their behavior as defiant or disruptive, especially when it might be something really deeper?
That's a good question. I tend to have two conversations. Well, sometimes three, but here is the two. I always have the conversation with the student, and then I have a conversation with the teacher. What happened? What did you think happened? What was the expectation? What were you looking for? How did you address it? Where did you address it? Did you listen for the response? And so those are some of the things that hold in the conversation. How could you have done things differently? What did you want the teacher to say or do, or what did you want the student to say or do? And so I have those one-on-one conversations independently. And then the third conversation sometimes is me bringing both the student and the teacher together, because oftentimes the student is hearing one thing and the teacher is hearing something else. And so we have to be on one accord in how we communicate, how we're giving instruction, and then how the student is receiving it and hearing it and knowing the expectation. And I think that when you take that little extra step to do that, you'll get a better result. Also, is recognizing what may be going on personally with the student. If the student is coming in hungry, they're going to act out. If the student just had an argument or got yelled at, they're going to act out. So again, it's taking those moments to kind of do a temperature read with your students in the morning when they first come in, after lunch, because recess and lunch is sometimes hard for students, and then right before they go home. How can we send them off with a little bit of comfort, with a little bit of reassurance of who they are until we get them back the next day?
Yeah. I love that. I really do like that idea. I think about when you watch TV and it's like they get up for school and they have a good, nice breakfast, and it seems like they up for school an hour in advance because they got time to talk, they got time to do all this, and it really does set the day better than I'll tell you what I did. So, I wish that I had done that more. I think it really
Mhm.
helps set the day and the tone. So let's talk grief. We know right now we're living in a society, especially in Black and Brown communities, where we have a lot of gun violence and violence in general. And so there's sometimes often a lot of grief, either family grief or community grief or something, right? And so I'm sure you've supported students through that or either divorce, other types of displacements. How do schools hold space for that kind of loss?
I want to say that I am just very thankful and grateful that it is being seen and recognized and is being taken seriously. The best way that we can address it is being a community, and allowing grief to play its role and not seeing it as the enemy, and understanding that grief is so big, right? Like you said, it could be death, it could be a breakup in a friendship, it could be divorce, it could be, so many different things. And so when we recognize that that's what it is, that we allow grief to be grief, right?
Yeah.
So that basically means that whatever that person is going through and however they need to navigate through it in those moments, to give them grace and allow them to do that. Some students may need to come to my office and just sit. Some students may, for the day, just listen to me, be allowed to listen to music as they're doing their work, as long as they're working. Some students may need not to be in school for the day. It really just depends on how well and how invested you are in listening and hearing what your students are saying. And sometimes that does not mean words, it's in actions, it's in their tone, it's in their attitude. So we have to always look at the whole picture and not just the one thing. And we definitely do not want to make assumptions on what we think. It's important to ask the question. I always ask, how can I help you? What is it that you would like me to do to help out in this situation? And that's whether we're going through grief, is disciplinarian, it is behavioral, whatever it is. My question is always, how do you want me to help? How can I help you? And a student can say, this is what I would like, or I really don't know. And when you get the really I don't know response, you can list a few things, two or three things. Well,
Right.
this is what I could do. What do you think about us doing this? Would you like me to do it with you, or would you like to do it alone? And so when we give our students some choices on how they can navigate, but let them know that you're there with them, I think you'll get a good response. And then also just having the training for your staff and your teachers, how to understand grief and how to navigate with it and what to say and what not to say. And so as someone who I was given this opportunity to be the SEL counselor because of my own personal journey. 2020 was not good to me. My mom unexpectedly died. 4 days before my 50th birthday, 6 days before Thanksgiving. And so that took me in such a depressive state. And so I took a leave from work. And when I was home, I was thinking about, this is still COVID time. So I'm worried now about my students. If this has hit me this hard, who is there for our babies whose parents are dying, grandparents, siblings, trying to figure out life? decrease in finances, who is there to give them a safe place to be able to express themselves and grieve through whatever issues or concerns that they have? And so I'm grateful that I was given an opportunity to be in this position to be able to provide a safe place, a confidential place for students to be able to come and grieve and talk about what's on their hearts and minds.
I love that. I love all of that. And I'm sorry for your loss. I love the idea of this individualized approach, right? That it takes it from a punitive to restorative, right? Like,
Yes.
so students are having issue, but they can come to Miss Keia, Miss Boyd, and say, look, I just need to be by myself for a minute. I'll do my work. I promise I'll sit in here and do my work. And like when we talk about community, we often use the word community, but we
Hmm.
don't really mean community. We mean you do
Right.
what I say, hey, that's
Absolutely.
not
Hmm.
community. What
Hmm.
you're describing is true community. Like I can meet your need and you can meet the needs of the community as well.
One one thing I tell my students, and I'm a very big advocate on it, is that they have their voice, and their voice is important, and it needs to be heard. And you can use your voice as long as you are respectful, right? And you know what you're talking about. And so we're not coming with that attitude and the rocking of the head and the moving of the hands and all that rah rah. No, we're going to come in a respectful way to be able to share how we feel, what we feel, and then what we need to get assistance.
Perfect. You answered this a little bit already, but how do you navigate confidentiality while ensuring student safety? Like, because some stuff you have to report, right? But
Yes.
how do you
Mhm.
make sure you have a good balance?
So whenever I'm meeting with a student and I talk about confidentiality, again, I made a joke earlier, but I really say this to them. What we talk about is confidential, and not unless you telling me that you're about to murder somebody, chop them up, or harm somebody, then I have to I have to tell somebody. But when I'm in those situations, I always at the end say, okay, this is really serious. And so I need to pull in admin. I work with another counselor, the other counselor, or even their parents. And we talk about how that makes them feel and how can I support them as I, get ready to share what we've talked about so that they still have some power and some control over how they're feeling and
Yeah,
how it's going to be discussed
yeah.
and to make them a part of the discussion and not just be talked about.
I love that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we've reached the end of our kind of long questions. Now we're going to do a little rapid fire. So just say the first thing that comes to mind. What's the most overlooked reason a student might act out?
Grief,
Mm. Best school lunch for a therapy breakthrough.
chicken wings.
What you wish every parent asked you, but they rarely do.
Wow. How can I help my child?
Mm. A moment that made you say, "This is why I do this work."
When students come by my office and just say, I just wanted to check in on you.
Wow. Okay, so if you
Mhm.
could rewrite one school policy, what would it be?
Hmm. One school policy, what would it be? That's a very good question. Parent communication, how we communicate with parents, what we allow them to do and not do.
Interesting. We
Hmm.
need to do a follow-up on that one. Okay. And then your go-to grounding tip for students in the hallway.
Take a breath.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. So today's episode reminds us that school isn't just about academics. Our kids are full people with inner worlds, heavy emotions, daily decisions that require real support. And we don't want to wait for a crisis to get to know your child's counselor. You can do that now, ask questions, build relationships, really be a village, like include your school counselor. And we've already talked to a school nurse before. So your school nurse too into the
Yes.
village that sees them in this kind of
Mhm.
holistic view. Yes. So that's it for Crown Talks for this week. Thank you for joining us and being here with us. If you like this, please, or know someone that needs to hear this, like and subscribe to Crown Talks wherever you get your podcast medicine. Crown secured. We out. Thank you, Miss Boyd, for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.